to, to, to create wealth, and then less or a smaller portion of their portfolio, funding portfolio, financing portfolio, to consumption. If you start with consumption, this will keep low wealth agents still poor. They keep them poor. It will not improve their wealth. You have to create wealth, okay? And wealth creation would allow wealth distribution to be better distributed, but not with consumption. Unfortunately, many Islamic banks focus mainly on consumption. They ignore production, and this obviously is not very helpful. This will not cure the problem. In this model, production is exogenous. We are not including production. Someone might extend this model and have production as endogenous and see how it works. That would be a very good extension. But in any case, in this model, we assume that there is production, and that's how income is coming. Income is exogenous, which means investment and production is exogenous to this model. But in reality, they are not, of course, exogenous. So we have to promote production in order to create wealth, and then through all the means of either non-profit sector and through trade, the wealth distribution will be much better. Okay, we are saying that the markup distribution or markup financing will not distort wealth distribution, but if the existing wealth distribution is already distorted, markup will not restore the good distribution. To restore the imbalances, we have to promote production to create the wealth, and then we have also to promote non-profit activities, interest-free lending, zakah, and all these to restore wealth distribution the minimum. And then from that point on, if we use markup financing for consumption, this will not negatively impact wealth distribution. But if we start with a reasonably distributed wealth and use interest-based financing or something similar to it, this will make it worse. See, that's the difference. If you start with a reasonable distribution of wealth, interest-based financing will make it worse. Markup financing will not make it worse. But if the income wealth distribution is already distorted, then we have to correct it through two things, as I mentioned: production and wealth creation, and the non-profit sector. We have to have the non-profit sector highly active in order to at least the minimum basic needs are met, and from that point on we can bring in markup financing and other Islamic modes of financing. So Islamic financing modes, particularly markup, does not operate in vacuum and in any environment. It has to have the right environment. The point is that within a given environment, interest-based system will make it worse. Markup system will not make it worse. That's the point. But in order to get a good wealth distribution, we have to have these two things, as I mentioned: production and wealth creation, plus the non-profit sector.
Thank you, Dr. Sami. So, if you don't have any more questions, we will go to Tahran. Tahran, please, can you address any question to Dr. Sami Suelim?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Iran have a question. Sayyid Aziz. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for your beautiful and beautiful presentation, Dr. Suwailim. I have a question. I think if I talk about an alternative paradigm, we should analyze our analysis according that new paradigm, namely Islam. And in Islam and Islam paradigm, we have infaq or infaq as listed in our analysis. I mean, we should it is better that we analyze our results of charity and infaq according to the base base course of infaq. That the that it is the wealth of woman and going close to God. Jalla Jalala. I mean, we should also at consumption base our analysis, our the sa'adat and the closing to God. This was the commitment of us on the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, are there other questions in Tehran? Thank you for your question.
Any other question from Iran, from Tehran?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, I think I agree with you in general, but if you want to make a study, you have to make simplifying assumptions. You have to put certain framework in order to compare the Islamic system with the non-Islamic system. Otherwise, of course, the overall system, all values, ethics, faith, all these obviously are very important and will affect the behavior, if I understand your question correctly. But in doing research and trying to draw numbers, you have to simplify and you have to restrict yourself to a certain assumptions. The point is that these assumptions have to be to some extent realistic and fair. You have to compare yourself with the others on a level playing field. You cannot twist the playing field for your own. You have to put a level playing field and then see how Islamic finance would compare. Now everybody in the world is talking about Islamic finance, so we have something to say to the world, to the non-Muslims. So we have to have an argument, a solid argument of how Islamic finance can contribute to the wealth of even non-Muslims. So Islamic finance is not only for Muslims. Islamic finance is for all people.
Thank you, Dr. Sami Suhaili. Let me just conclude the lecture by thanking all of you for attending this lecture and for your kind questions, and Dr. Sami Suhaili for his really valuable time and excellent lecture on this subject. Next week, inshallah, we have a lecture by Professor Khurshid Ahmed, who will deliver the lecture from Islamabad. And please kindly attend this lecture. So see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much.
That means that in each of this course there will be a set number of lectures or sessions which should be the same for each course, right? Like if you have 9 or 10 sessions, that should be the same for each of these courses.
Yes, it would be good to standardize perhaps.
Yes, they should be standardized so that students give same amount of time and effort for each of the courses, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Dr. Tashi?
Thank you very much.
So we do have do we have same amount or quantity of material for each of these courses? That's the first question.
Yeah, there is a variation there.
Especially, I was wondering in Islam, for example, in the principles of Islamic economics, finance, and modes of Islamic banking, probably will not have any problems having 8 or 9 lecture sessions. In capital markets, will we have enough? And maybe risk management, will we have enough? I'm just curious.
Risk management, perhaps because we had a full lecture program comprising 5 sessions.
Yes, I remember. Yes.
So risk management shouldn't be a problem.
No problem, yeah.
Capital market also, of course, I don't know about how many topics we can offer there, but we have a lot of material. Dr. Salman has compiled these 2 edited volumes on this. So
That's right. That's right.
but we can, basically we had some sessions on stock market in the past and on Sukuk.
Yes.
There is a problem, but given that the Sukuk now we have many structures and perhaps regulatory and Sharia issues, it would require some more additional work as compared to others.
Inshallah. Inshallah. And even today's lecture, I mean, which will be on treasury, this can be linked in some ways to this capital markets, I think. The other question actually I had was about assessing. Once you give the courses, the students have to be assessed in some way, either through exams or writing essays. Have you thought about that part?
Not really.
Because they may be taking courses and to give them a certificate, we'll come to that later. Whether with 3 courses we can give them a diploma or something. But the question is, before giving a certificate there can be a certificate for attendance, but that probably will not carry too much weight. There should be some mode of assessing. Pardon me?
Part of the learning we can incorporate is, online quizzes, which will give instantaneous feedback and the results. Going by the trend currently, that most of like CFA and other examinations, where much of the evaluation is in the form of quizzes or multiple choice.
Yes.
So if you have that kind of a format, and we develop this multiple choice, question bank, which could be, randomly it could change the order and so on. And then the student can get an instantaneous evaluation. So some we can keep for a practice session, and finally he also takes an examination. Perhaps that could be a good format to evaluate the student. First he can practice on the session, and then eventually he takes a similar format test. That's going by the trend, but there could be other forms of evaluation also based on. But that would require like a lot more time and attention by the instructor. If you make it essay type questions, for example, each one of the answer sheets have to be evaluated. That would involve a lot more attention.
That's right.
If you can automate the entire exercise, make it sort of the computer itself will evaluate the answers and give the feedback. That will be
how are other universities who are giving e-learning assessing their students? We can benefit from
yes.
experiences.
The trend is more
We can find out how do they assess their students.
that will minimize the instructor interaction.
This sound, I cannot hear the sound actually.
I just said that we can benefit from other experiences from other universities who are doing already e-learning and see how they do assess this. We can benefit from that experience. We don't need to create the wheel, as they say.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to see what is the, in some ways, easiest way to assess the students. Because if you have to give a certificate, I think there should be some assessment. And what Dr. Ubaidullah says is probably one good option. But even then, to do that will require a lot of work in terms of creating a data bank for questions which can be put out as exams for different years. But I'm sure there'll be a lot of students. I mean, if they see this assessment, it also carries more weight, and they'll be more serious with the course.
Yeah, actually, with the same package that we are signing with this international university in Riyadh, they will supply us a format for the exams. The exams are done like Dr. Ubaidullah said. It's a multiple choice, or even yes or no. Very quick questions actually. There is no writing. Or sometimes you choose some, or sometimes you choose. They give you 5 statements and you choose the best statement to for example, for the correct answer. So we can work on that actually, and we will study that on our committee internally, and we'll come back to you. Actually, this meeting was supposed that all the committee members be around, but unfortunately that most of them are not available today. Otherwise, we could have gotten some information. Meanwhile, we will also look into other universities who are giving their e-learning programs and see how they are assess their students for their courses.